My wife refused to spend her birthday with me and instead chose to have dinner with a coworker. When I told her I was thinking about filing for divorce, she thought I was just joking. We had been together for 14 years and married for 12. While our relationship wasn't perfect and we had our share of challenges, there had never been any cheating, at least not that I knew of. I always believed we could work through our problems together. In September 2022, I was in a serious car accident involving a garbage truck. Thankfully, I wasn't badly hurt, but I've been dealing with severe back pain ever since. This pain has kept me from working as an HVAC technician. I tried going back to work after 3 months, but my condition got worse, and my doctor told me to stay off work while we figured out a treatment plan. In May 2023, I had an emergency surgery due to a ruptured appendix. I woke my wife up to take me to the hospital, but she seemed irritated and insisted on fixing her hair and makeup before we left. She also refused to drive, so I ended up driving myself with her as a passenger. After the surgery, the hospital wanted to keep me overnight for observation due to an infection around my appendix. I asked my wife to stay with me and take a few days off to help, but she refused both. At the time, I was too focused on my recovery to think much about her lack of support. In June, during a conversation, I jokingly said, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out," reflecting on how tough things had been. She snapped at me, saying she felt trapped and stressed. I understood her feelings, knowing my inability to work added to her stress. I had applied for financial assistance to help cover our mortgage and utilities, so she was taking care of the bills. 2 weeks later, she told me she planned to spend the night with a coworker to talk about her feelings, and I encouraged her, hoping it would help us work through our issues. She then mentioned that she had made plans to have dinner with a coworker on her birthday instead of with me. Later, I found out that this coworker was actually a man. We had a heated argument, and I went to my mother's house to cool down and think things over. After a few hours, I went to a friend's house for some space. When my wife found out, she accused me of giving up on our marriage. We argued some more, but after a few days, I realized that 14 years together was too important to end over this one issue. We agreed to try to work on our relationship for at least 6 months before making any final decisions. However, just 4 weeks later, I discovered she had been looking for apartments. She then suggested that having her own space might help save our marriage, that I expressed my confusion about how a year-long lease would help, and questioned how she expected me to manage the bills while I was unable to work. I told her that if she moved out, I would file for divorce. She found an apartment she liked, applied for it, and was approved. Once she was approved, she moved out, leaving me to handle the financial responsibilities on my own, despite my earlier warnings. She seemed determined to follow through with her plans, and as she settled into her new place, I was left dealing with the practical and emotional fallout of our situation. Her departure brought a mix of relief and distress. On one hand, it gave me a chance to reflect on our relationship without the constant strain of daily interactions. On the other hand, the financial burden and the reality of living alone after so many years of marriage weighed heavily on me. In the months after her move, we continued to communicate, but our conversations were often tense, filled with unresolved issues and unspoken resentments. While I tried to adjust to my new circumstances both emotionally and financially, I was also trying to navigate the complexities of a potential divorce. The process of separating our lives was complicated by the fact that I was still struggling with my health issues and unable to work. This made it difficult to manage the logistical aspects of our split, such as dividing assets and settling financial obligations. I also had to face the reality of living without the partner who had been such a significant part of my life for over a decade. During this time, I focused on seeking treatment for my back pain and tried to regain some stability in my life. I also continued to process the emotional impact of the separation, dealing with feelings of betrayal and sadness. Ultimately, the decision to divorce came from the realization that our relationship had fundamentally changed. We were no longer able to support each other in the way we once had. The unresolved issues, along with her decision to move out, made it clear that staying married would be challenging and possibly harmful to both of us. As I move forward, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life, prioritizing my health, and accepting the end of this significant chapter in my life. I wasn't prepared for things to escalate, and it took about 2 weeks for the situation to unfold. During this time, I did something I'm not proud of. I felt increasingly uneasy about the situation, and had suspicions that she wasn't being completely honest with me about her reasons for wanting to move out. So, I decided to go through her things while she was at work. What I found shocked me. She had been communicating with another man for around 4 to 5 months. One of the messages I discovered was from her to him, expressing her desire to meet up and asking when and where they could get together. When I confronted her about it, she dismissed it as a joke. But when I told her how hurtful and wrong her actions were, she responded by saying that since I hadn't been intimate with her, she had to find satisfaction elsewhere. For months, she had been rejecting my attempts to be intimate. In August 2023, she moved into her own apartment. 2 weeks later, I told her I was filing for divorce. At first, she thought I was bluffing, but since we didn't have children, the divorce process went fairly quickly and was finalized by December 2023. There were many instances of gaslighting and other troubling behaviors during this time. I wanted to share my story to emphasize that if you're being mistreated or taken advantage of in a relationship, it's important to have the courage to leave. No one deserves to be disrespected or mistreated. In the 2 weeks before she moved out, we had many arguments. She often referred to me as a broken person because of my injuries and pain. Despite everything, I helped her move out because she had no one else to rely on, and I thought it might give me some sense of closure. In the months that followed, as we dealt with divorce paperwork, we agreed that she would keep her belongings, and I would keep mine. In October 2023, she was involved in a car accident that totaled her vehicle. Although she appeared to be fine and didn't go to the hospital, she asked to borrow my car for work. I declined and also refused to give her rides due to conflicting schedules with my physical therapy and doctor visits. This led to an argument, and I told her she was no longer my problem. After that, communication between us dropped significantly, and we only spoke occasionally, mainly to update her address. I now return her mail to the sender, as there's nothing left to discuss.
As for me, I've been slowly improving physically. I recently had a procedure to numb the nerves in my lower back to help manage the pain, which I hope will allow me to return to more normal activities. As the new year began, I decided to start dating again, get out of the house, and explore new relationships and experiences.